Hello and welcome to Cracking the Shell on Psychological Science. In this week's episode, I'm talking with my colleague and friend, Dr. Andrea Chronis-Tuscano, who is a professor of clinical psychology here at the University of Maryland. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Thanks for having me, Mike.
So one of the things I like to do is to talk with our faculty about, their personal stories, to get to know a little bit about the people behind the science. As your colleague, I get to hear a lot about your science, but I don't know a lot about you as a person. So I'd like to talk a little bit about where you came from, how you got into psychology and so forth. So how about we start with where did you grow up and where did you go to college?
Well, this is actually an interesting story, and I think over time I realize more and more how fortunate I am to be where I am right now. I grew up on the outskirts of Chicago. I was raised by a single mom, and I lived in a working class neighborhood where most of us are now first generation college students. And I think that my background really, is unusual, I think, in academia. And for my first few years in academia, I looked around and realized that not a lot of people around me had grown up with such modest beginnings and didn't have parents who went to college for whatever reason. I guess I started recognizing that more and more as I moved ahead. When I think about my background, I think about different values that I was raised with that helped me to be able to achieve what I have achieved in my career. And one of those is just kind of believing in yourself and that you could do anything you want to do. And I remember back to a story where an aunt of mine, when she heard that I was going to be attending Loyola University in Chicago, said, "Wow, you're going to meet a lot of people who are pre-med, so you should marry a doctor." And my mom quickly responded, "Forget that. She should be a doctor."
Oh, that's sweet.
So I think about that fondly, and just this idea that you can be whatever you want, you could do whatever you want. And there was also this working class value of hard work. So working hard, keeping your word, being committed to whatever you're working on, keeping your word to people and just putting your all in. And I think that value really helped me over time.
So you think those values sort of grew out of your relationship with your mom and the neighborhood that you grew out of, or that you grew up in?
Yeah, I think it was the family that I was in. Definitely, there were strong women. My grandmother was the matriarch. She came from Italy, and
So she was like a first generation immigrant,
She was an immigrant.
Wow.
And so I lived in the house
cool.
with my mom and my grandmother, and so she was the matriarch for the family among her siblings. And so I really grew up seeing these strong women, with this value of hard work and this belief that you could do whatever you want to do. And I was also very intellectually curious, I think. And so as I went through college and I worked at a therapeutic day school that was on my campus, I was working with kids with ADHD and autism and other neurodevelopmental disorders in this therapeutic day school setting. But I constantly had these questions around, wow, I wonder how we could teach the parents the same skills and strategies that we're working with, that we're using as we're educating these kids.
So can I ask you, where did you, at what point did you know that you wanted to study ADHD? I mean, you're a clinical psychologist. It could have been anything, right? It could have been depression. It could have been, addiction. We have a lot of people who study addiction, but you chose ADHD. Why did you choose ADHD? And what was that sort of thing, that sort of aha moment, if you will?
That's a great question. And I wish I had a better answer. I think in a way it was really serendipitous because, well, first of all, so I went to Loyola University, Chicago as an undergrad. And then after undergrad, I knew I wanted to pursue a PhD in clinical psychology. And I really didn't have the guidance or mentorship or the I wasn't in the know about what you needed to do. And I'll talk about...
Is it fair enough to say that you didn't go into college thinking that you would get a PhD? I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I don't think I knew what I was doing really. I've always worked with children. I was very good at math. And I was intellectually curious, but I wasn't sure if it would go in the direction of education or if I would be a math teacher or a special education teacher, or I really didn't know much about psychology or what psychologists do. And so, as I'll talk about later, that's why one of my goals as a faculty member is always to make sure that I'm helping to foster the career development of all my students, and maybe especially those who don't have a sense of these things. But how I got into ADHD was completely serendipitous, because my first round applying to PhD programs in clinical psychology, I only applied in Chicago. And we talked to so many students who want to stay local, want to stay near their families, and we always talk to them about the importance of casting a broad net. But for me, having grown up in this very close-knit, extended family, it wasn't even a thought that I would move somewhere else. So after applying the first time and not getting in, I got some more guidance and did eventually get into one program at the State University of New York at Buffalo. And I had a wonderful advisor, Anthony Graziano, the first year. And then he informed me that he was going to be retiring.
No.
So there was nobody else that I wanted to work with there. And luckily, Dr. William Pelham, I found out, was going to be moving to Buffalo from the University of Pittsburgh. And so I reached out to him and was lucky enough to have him consider taking me on as a student. And again, little did I know that he was one of the world's leading experts in ADHD. And of course, having worked with kids all of my life, I encountered a lot of ADHD and became really excited by the possibility of being able to do so much to help kids with ADHD.
So the first person, what was Graziano? Was not an ADHD expert.
No, he did a lot of parenting research. And of course, I do a lot of parenting research. I think parenting is so important in terms of child development. Maybe in some way that came from, all the encouragement that I got growing up. But he wasn't specifically studying ADHD. So, but of course, 11% of the population has ADHD. So I encountered a lot of ADHD over the years and was really excited by all of the evidence-based treatments we have for ADHD. So there was a lot of growth that I was able to see in the kids that we were working with. And I also really got thrilled by the idea of interventions research. I feel like when you're able to study how to treat kids with various problems, it's very real world and it's very tangible. And you both get to do the science and the intellectual piece and the stats and all of that. But alongside that, you really get to see the impact that your work is having on kids and families. So that was very exciting to me.
Before we move on to my next question, what do you miss most about Chicago?
Oh, geez, I love Chicago. I love how nice people are. Everyone's down to earth. I love the Cubs. I love the architecture. I try to get there as much as possible. I love the food. The food is wonderful.
What about the food specifically?
Okay. Italian beef sandwiches, Portillo's hot dogs and cheese fries. I love just the Italian food, the Greek food. You could walk into any restaurant, even if it looks like a hole in the wall, and it's delicious. Got to be careful in Chicago. There's great food all around.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Okay. So I know all about you.
Oh, and I should say, I'm sorry, most importantly, the family. It's really cute. When my family was heading to Vancouver to meet me at my conference, their flight got delayed and they missed their connection, and they ended up having to spend a night in Chicago, and they got to see several members of the big Italian family. At the end of our trip, which was really nice, going to Vancouver and Seattle, asking them what was your favorite part of the trip, they said their layover in Chicago, because I have a big, warm, fun family that we really get to enjoy whenever we go there. So that's probably the number one.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Okay, so I know some of your professional achievements, and I don't really want to perseverate on those, but I'm really curious about, things that I and other people might not know about you. So what are some things that we might not easily find online about you? Like, I could do all sorts of research on you, but I didn't.
Well, I find, the whole first-generation college student thing is really important. And now, it used to be something that not many people knew about me. But ever since the pandemic, I started mentioning that at the beginning of my class every semester. And I have found that so many students have come up to me and said, I'm a first-generation college student too. And it meant a lot that you told me that. I would say another thing that wouldn't surprise people that know me very well is that I am incredibly not athletic. The reason that this is important is because when I started working with Dr. Pelham, one of the things that he's most known for is this summer treatment program for kids with ADHD. In that program, there's a huge emphasis on sports. So I remember the first conversation that I had with him over the phone, and he was telling me about how I could move to Pittsburgh and learn all about his program, and that I would help set that up when we got back to Buffalo. And at the end of the conversation, just as we were about to hang up, he said, wait a sec, you're athletic, right? And I was like, sure, yeah, yes. But of course I wasn't at all. But this was my only chance to stay in my PhD program working on something that I wanted to. So that was exciting.
Do you cook?
Oh, I do cook. I love cooking.
Do you cook a lot of old world Italian dishes?
Yes, mostly because my maternal grandmother was a huge part of my life, and so I spent a lot of time with her, which is probably why I'm not so athletic. I was in the kitchen cooking with her. And so I love things like eggplant parmesan and various chicken and pasta dishes and caprese salad. And I really enjoy cooking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, there's something, right? Okay. We have something that we can take to the bank on that. So what sort of advice would you give students who are interested in studying ADHD?
Well, I think the advice that I give to most students, and especially students at a big university like Maryland, is to make sure that you are talking to your professors, that you are grasping at any opportunity there is to learn something new outside of the classroom. So with this Pelham Summer Treatment Program, what's wonderful about it is that students, undergraduates, graduate students can work for 6 or 8 weeks in this intensive program where they are delivering an award-winning evidence-based treatment for kids with ADHD. And I think that one of the things that helped me over the course of my career is to really try these out-of-classroom experiences, like working at the Therapeutic Day School at Loyola University in Chicago, where you actually get to see, I like this, I don't like this. I could see myself doing this, or to notice the different people in these settings and to be able to talk with them about how they spend their days and what their job is like. Because there's really no way to hone in on what it is that you're interested in and what it is that you're really not interested in unless you put yourself in these situations. So I would say that that's kind of another theme of my work with my students, is encouraging even my undergrads to say, okay, there's the selective mutism camp happening with Dr. Raji over here. I really think you should give it a try. Or if you're interested in ADHD, let's look at the different summer treatment programs and see which one you might think about working in. So I think that students, it's really hard for anyone to know what they want to do. I know a lot of people our age don't know what they want to do, and I always feel lucky that I really enjoy my profession, but there's so many people that don't. So the last thing I want to see is for students to kind of dive in and just assume that graduate school is the next step without considering all the different possibilities.
That's such great advice. I think some of our students just assume, like, oh, I'm going to go to graduate school, right? And they make that decision at 18 years old, not realizing that there are many other paths that they could pursue and maybe have a more fulfilling life.
Yes.
I hate to say that. But, Andrew, this has been great talking to you. We could probably spend another 20, 25 minutes or more talking about this type of stuff. But I just want to say thanks for joining us here for this episode. I do want to have you back on for a couple of other episodes. Maybe want to talk about your research and also the Succeeds Clinic, which is what I would call one of the crown jewels of our department. And so we can learn more about that stuff. So you'll come back, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye-bye.